Hello guys, welcome back, and today we're gonna be talking about Azur Lane Fallen Lord. So yeah, let's continue on with what happened last episode, shall we, ladies and gents? As currently in the sky, or in the sky, because I'm currently watching a Teen Sky video, as in MHA TV, which, by the way, my favorite PokeTuber currently, as these dragons would be flying up into the sky. I should stop that. They would be flying up in the sky as they would look down below in the ocean, or at least in the sea, as they would see multiple, or should I say, actually, yeah, 5 ships there. As they would notice, one of them has a black looking cube, which the dragons were ordered by something to kill them and immediately destroy the cube. Or at least that's what they think. As these dragons would slowly start coming from the sky and would start shooting down fire. As when the fire was about to be launched at them, a few of the members of the Sakura Empire, which were the ships being, that's their affiliation, they would start activating their riggings and start running away, or not really running away, but more like sliding away. Yeah, I guess you could say that. As while sliding away, one of them specifically that of our I guess you could say it's the Arctic Fox. Yeah, Arctic Fox girl, aka Kaga, would start using her powers, specifically that of, because she's an aircraft carrier, she would summon out a few ships. Not really ships, but more like, airplanes, which they would take the form as, I guess you could say, flying flame-like talismans, as they would start going up in the sky and actually transforming into normal ass, wait for a second. As they would transform back into much more, I guess you can say, normal-ish airplanes, as they would start firing, I guess you could say, bullets towards the flying dragons, as the bullets would just somewhat bounce off the hardened skin of the dragons. As while seeing this, one of them would say, "Look out!" said one of the members of the Sakura Empire, being that of our girl. Actually, let me just double check what is their, like. They usually have a acronym at the start, like for example HMS for like a Royal Navy, or USS, for Eagle Union. Let me just double check what it is for their faction. Being that of Ayanami, as she would fire off these missile like I guess you could say missile like a blast towards the object in the sky that was launched by the large island, or at least supposed island. As from the sky, they would see a large lightning bolt. Specifically, it was colored red. As it would launch from the sky, as it would get ready to strike down at the area nearby Ayanami and the rest of the members of Sakura Empire. When shouting out that command, everybody was in shock, seeing the large red lightning bolt getting ready to be slammed down on them. They would run away immediately, as when they did, the poor ships nearby would be electrocuted by the blast, almost similar to that of. Okay, don't be insensitive assholes, but well, I am an insensitive asshole, but still. Well, it would resemble that of the missile, or more specifically, the nuke test during the times of during the times of World War II, specifically, the specific bomb in Nagasaki. Let's just say that, except without the radiation problem. So, after the blast was fired off, everybody was in shock by the firepower, as one of them would say, "What in the?" As one of them would say, "Impossible. What in heaven's will is this?" she would say. As the girl that said that was, Zaukaku. As Zaukaku would see this, as she would fire off more, you know, more and more of her, aircrafts. As while doing so, the airplanes would start shooting down more, try to shoot down the dragons, but the dragons would just burn them off, or burn them with their fire, which is annoying to say the least. Until Shaokaku would decide to tell them to try and fire off at, or at least fire their missiles towards the mouth of the dragons. As when the dragons were about to fire their, fire, the gunshots would shoot towards the actual, mouth of the dragons, which, when they did, the metal would melt and would start covering up their, their mouth, essentially. After doing so, it would start to choke on its own fire and would explode the head. After noticing this, she would say, "Everybody, shoot towards the mouth!" As after saying that, the rest of the Sakura Empire would decide to do so, telling their ships, or commanding their, not ships, but more like, their, essentially the airplanes to start shooting down the poor, like, dragons by shooting them in the mouth, and which they would start killing them instantly, which was thankful because there was a lot of dragons. As while this was happening, a few of the, mass-produced the siren ships would somehow would somehow be overrun by some of these weird chimeric creatures. They would start ripping it apart with such ease now, like they were ripping through it like, I guess you could say, like Christmas dinner. More specifically, a turkey, which we don't have. Instead, we have chicken. Anyway, continuing on, as while they were ripping off piece by piece of the I guess you could say the mass-produced siren ships, they would look over and some of them would start looking at them. As when noticing this, the one of them, specifically that of Akagi or Akage, would say, "Why are they looking at us?" said her. As when seeing this, one of them would say, "Everybody get ready." As while saying this, she would look over and would see Kaga getting ready to attack. As she would say, "Sister, what are you doing?" As she would say, "It looks like there's another thing coming," she would say. As while saying this, they would see someone that they would never see in a long time. It's like they're seeing a ghost. As one of them would say, "Wait, that ship," said Kaga. As Akagi would notice the ship, it was that of another Sakura Empire ship. In fact, it looks like somebody familiar. As the ship would be there, revealed in its full glory, as a voice would say, "Stop!" As some of the beasts, or some of the chimeric beasts and the dragons would look over, and they would see, as we would see her, a woman that almost resembles that of the brown haired and red wearing ship girl. In fact, she actually has fox ears, but her clothing is a bit different. Unlike the typical almost Japanese, or should I say, Sakura Empire style clothing, instead she's wearing a somewhat more, I guess you could say, European style dress. Almost similar to that of maybe Iron Blood, or that of old like really old versions of, like, Royal Navy or Iron Blood. As she would say, "Stop it! Those are my allies! Those are my sisters!" she would say. As after saying that, the creatures would almost be surprised, as some of the dragons nearby would be flying up in the sky also stop fighting. As the woman, or specifically the two women, would be surprised seeing her, as you would say, "Sister? How? I thought you were I should say, yes, I'm fine, but as while saying this, she would start coughing as somebody would come nearby, as this being would resemble that of an armored knight. A woman, or I should I say, a large womanly knight would appear with a somewhat massive hammer. Actually, not even somewhat. It looks gigantic, to say the least. As you'd say, Lady Amagi, are you sure it's good for you to use that large warship of yours? Especially since that you say that you're still sick. As after saying that, she would say, it's okay. I'm fine. Thanks for you and your master helping me repair my ship, even though you really didn't need to. As she would say, but my master was merciful for you to stay with us. Though, as she would look up and would see the women, or at least the rest of the Soccer Empire ships approach, as she would say, so, these are your family? As she would say, yes, yes, Miss Devonia. Though, I'm surprised that they're still here as well. So, as she would look up and see her sisters, Kaga and, you know, Akagi. Wait for a second. As when they finally reach, the now ship known as, Amagi, Akagi would jump into the ship and would immediately hug her sister. I should say, Amagi, it really is you, she would say. As she would be crying, as she would say, shh, shh, yes, it's me. I actually never thought I would survive that. Also, she would look up and would see the other members. As Kaga would say, sister, as she would say, so, you're the one that's been taking care of her. Hmm? Please come here. Come to big sister, she would say. As after saying these words, she would come up to her and would also hug. The rest of the other members of Soccer Empire would say, specifically that a Shaukaku would say, this is actually quite heartwarming, especially since we never see our seniors cry before. After saying these words, the Zaukaku would say, yes. As she would look up at the large, what seemed to be a large ass land mass, about maybe the size of Alaska. Not the ship, but the actual continent, or, not continent. I meant like the the large, state of Alaska. Yes, that's how big this island is. Or at least the inner island. What do I mean by this? Well, this is the size of Alaska. The walls, they're much bigger than that, so you can probably guess how big it is already. As Amagi would say, how are you alive? She would say, as sorry, I meant Akagi. This is Amagi. As Amagi would say, oh, about that, it was thanks to the lord of this large kingdom, she would say. As one of them would say, wait, kingdom? As before she can continue, she would look up and would see the inside of the castle, revealing what seemed to be multiple inhuman creatures, as these seemed to be almost looking at them. Some of them looking at them like they're somewhat like guests. As she would say, come in, come in. The lord, or I guess you could say the king of this land, might be surprised for me to come out of here. Come on, let's go. And after that, these ships would slowly start their going inside of the large looking kingdom. And so we will be ending off this episode right off here. So yeah, so bye bye.